NDP leader Jagmeet Singh promises you the sun, the stars, and the moon. This is the Great White North Report. Alright, so with the election coming up soon, on September 20th, it's time to vote who you will pick, and you have a choice of either Conservatives, Liberals, or the NDP. I don't consider the Green Party, the People's Party, or the Bloc Québécois any serious threat, as they're all fringe parties. The Bloc Québécois would be the biggest one, but that's only a Quebec thing. So it's really a race between the Conservatives and the Liberals are running neck and neck. Justine Trudeau-Woods-Jagger is in a lot of trouble in Ontario, and where I work, no one's going to vote for that clown. In this area, it's pretty much going to be a Conservative. Strong point. But what does the NDP really do? So Jagmeet Singh, he's making these promises and claims, and he promises universal pharmacare, mental health supports in first mandate if elected. Wealth tax would help cover its proposed services. So what he's going to do, he's going to raise the tax on corporations and billionaires. We don't have that many billionaires in Canada, and they pay a lot of taxes as it is. Then he says he's going to promise to kill fossil fuel subsidies. That just killed any chances of getting elected in Alberta. And Newfoundland should also, who used to have a pretty big oil imprint, would be wary of that one. To kill fossil fuels at this point in time would be a stupid maneuver. Think about it. All those electric batteries and vehicles that push electric cars and all that stuff, how do you think they get out of the ground? Using fossil fuels to make everything. Also, the minerals that we use would also affect the climate. Strip mining. All the housing that he wants built. Cheap housing for people to live in. Affordable housing. That's all going to take fossil fuels to get done. From the chainsaw that cuts the tree down to the bulldozer that plows up the land, breaks the land, and the backhoe that digs the foundation. All takes diesel fuel. All are made with minerals, with steel that also produces carbon dioxide. So that climate policy just already screwed. So Singh also promises double funding, make public transport fully electric by 2030. That only helps the big cities. It doesn't help small communities where I grew up that aren't connected to anything, which means we still need a car. We're still going to have to pay a ton of money for the carbon tax that Justine Trudeau-Woods-Jagger put together. It doesn't help anyone but the inner city. But other than that, I don't mind that idea, but the Liberals and Conservatives have that idea too. But electric batteries, again, those batteries come from certain minerals that you have to dig out of the ground, which means you need fossil fuels to dig them up and to manufacture them. And they don't have an infinite lifetime, which means hydro rates will go up. Promising to forgive up to $20,000 in student debt. First of all, students are stupid when it comes to money. That's the problem with the whole student loan program. They give the money to the student right away. All of it. What they should do is say, okay, you're going to get this much, but we're taking this for your tuition. We're taking this for your... If you live in res, we'll take this for your res. And we'll take this much for your books. Giving a lump sum to students is stupid as hell. Most students go into student loan debt because they waste all the money they get instead of wisely spending it. So instead of you doing critical race theory in high school, they should have a course on money management. Teach kids how to manage money better instead of giving some bullshit courses. Student debt is not that bad. I agree that they should extend the interest-free period to a year. That's fine. Gives students a year to get a job and start paying it off, but it's only at 4%. Hell, if anything, go after the credit card companies who charge anywhere from 14 to 29% interest. That's where it kills people. Student loans easy. I had student loans. I ended up paying $36,000 at the end of it all. It took me 10 years to pay it all off. I would have paid it off sooner, but I did go back to school for 8 months and had another 6 months. So better part of a year I didn't pay anything. But I went through the whole process, and it's called responsibility. When you forgive loans, you're forgiving them. And then they don't learn anything. Yes, the federal government makes a little bit of money off this, but it's going back into things. So like I say, so most of his programs are taking aim at billionaires and promises to close corporate tax loopholes. Well, first of all, if you start taxing the rich again, because they already pay a lot of taxes. I've jumped up into a new tax bracket a couple of times, and oh God, what I had to pay back then, or what I'm gonna have to pay this year because I jumped up again differently, in a different direction. I'm gonna pay more in income tax. So if the billionaires are gonna get more taxes, then they're gonna start leaving. They'll start hiding their money overseas again. Corporations don't want to work in a heavily taxed society. Why do you think they went to countries like China, Vietnam, and that? And remember, these corporations and billionaires also do a lot of sponsorship. They also do a lot of donations, funding, research and development, sports, culture. These guys do a lot of they donate a lot of money. It's a tax break for them, yes, but they still do it. If they get taxed more and the loopholes are closed, they'll be less inclined to invest in Canada or donate in Canada. Everyone wants to be a billionaire, but by taxing them to death isn't going to make it. And Singh promises to end Trudeau's climate failure. Actually, Trudeau's climate failure is more to stem from the fact that he wants to bring in 1.2 million immigrants in the next 3 years, from 2019, I think, to 2022. Something like that. When you bring in 1.2 million people, you are also adding that much of a carbon imprint on our climate. Because these people, they got to have housing, which creates greenhouse emissions. They breathe, food, all the resources that involve having that many immigrants come in the country at once. So the climate is definitely one of those things. Plus, climate went down in 2020 because of the pandemic. That would be the only good thing about the pandemic. The friggin' CCP virus. Thank you so much, Chinese Communist Party. Now he's promising dental care coverage for families earning less than $90,000. First of all, if you work in places like I've worked, you get dental care. And if two people work for companies that have benefits, you don't have to worry about it. Me and my wife both work for companies that offer dental care. Covers like 80% each on most things. And so we just go back and forth. We don't pay anything really. Our insurance pays for it. People need to work in jobs that have benefits, because who's going to pay for all this? And the NDP are pledging to create more than 1 million jobs to help boost the country's economic recovery from the CCP pandemic and access to training and education through the Workers and Development Opportunities Fund. Workers to quit their jobs to go to school to qualify for EI benefits. The benefits from the pandemic are what's keeping people from going back to work. That's the truth. The company I work for, they hired 300 people hoping 80 will stay. Taxes. He wants a crackdown on tax dodgers with high net worth. Raise revenue while lowering inequality. Inequality comes from within. You have to work to get it higher. Wants to crack down on big money hustlers by increasing the taxable amount of capital gains profits from 50 to 75%. That's a lot. That's a huge difference. Someone who bought a second house and wants to flip it won't make much money. But a big corporation who flips lots of houses, it won't be that bad. I would rather crack down on foreign ownership of housing, meaning the Chinese Communist Party, who own roughly $6 billion in Canadian real estate. Well, Canadians can't own anything there. So Singh, he makes a lot of false statements and a lot of stretches. Like, he doesn't really tell you how he's going to pay for this. He's just going to tax the rich. In reality, what's going to happen is the middle class is going to have to pay the majority of his programs. The NDP are going to spend a ton of money for all their promises, and your taxes are going to go up. Also, they're going to borrow so much money that inflation's going to go up. Inflation's already at an all-time high of 3.7%, as opposed to a year ago. Under the NDP, the inflation will go up even further, so everything's going to cost more. Gas for your car, electricity for your home, food on the table. These things, basic commodities, are going to go up in price because our dollar will be weakened. We're borrowing too much money. Now, during the pandemic, we had to do that to help people out. But the pandemic is slowly winding down with everyone getting vaccinations, and things are slowly getting back to some kind of normal. We're not out of the woods yet on that, but we're getting pretty close. The problem with the NDP is they're too far left, and they want the government to tell you what to do. They want you to be dependent on the government. No, it should be the other way around. He who governs best governs least. I firmly believe in that. And the government doesn't need its hand in everything. So here's a look at our federal debt. We're already over the $1 trillion mark. 2 years ago we weren't. Trudeau government has spent exorbitant amounts of money. And if every Canadian was to pay today, it would be $30,000. If I had $30,000, I'd write a check and get myself out of debt. There you go. But this is what it is. And it keeps going up with the interest. With the NDP promises, we'll never get out of debt. Now the NDP wants to work with allies to stand up to China. You're right, with what? But the party's also backing a move to waive intellectual property rights to COVID vaccines so they can be produced in developing nations. First of all, developing nations don't have the infrastructure to do it anyway. They don't have the factories. Who's going to build that? And once you waive intellectual property rights, then anyone can take that vaccine, manufacture it elsewhere, and claim it as their own and make a ton of money as well. He's also promising to champion nuclear disarmament. I wish we'd give that up. It's such a pipe dream these days. And peacekeeping, we saw how well Afghanistan worked. And boost foreign aid. No, we already pay $6 billion in foreign aid. That's the last thing I want. I want to wean all these beggar countries off the Canadian tit. Time to wean them off. We don't owe half these countries anything after all these years of paying for them. It's time to boost our military funding and get our ships, airplanes, and tanks updated. So the question is, would I ever vote NDP? No. I would never vote for these guys. I don't need my taxes to go up even higher, inflation to go even higher, and they would just wreck Canada as a whole. Their far left policies would be dangerous. They also support Hamas, a large part of the NDP, and they want to boycott Israel, which is the only stable country in that region. And I'm not for that. So I will never vote for these clowns. Their far left leanings clash with my centralist outlook. So again, with this election comes, I hope the NDP get buried. If anything, but realistically, I think they'll take some seats away from the Liberals and maybe even the Greens. We'll wait and see what happens. But anyway, any Canadians out there, let me know what you guys think of the NDP. Are they a good idea or not? Leave comments below. Hit the subscribe, like button. And this has been the Great White North Report.